Passage 2: Lizards versus the Wind. Turks and Caicos Islands. Hurricane force winds? Bring it on. Tropical lizards can take it. These critters are exceptionally good at clinging to trees while ferocious winds whoosh by. And now, partly because of two devastating natural disasters and one high-powered leaf blower, we know more about why. In September 2017, Hurricane Irma blew into the Turks and Caicos Islands. Irma wreaked havoc on the islands and put lizards' tree-clinging abilities to the test. Then, just 2 weeks later, Hurricane Maria arrived. These storms brought winds of up to 175 miles, 282 kilometers, per mile to the Caribbean. Researchers from Harvard University in the U.S. had visited the Turks and Caicos Islands just before the hurricanes. They had gone there to measure and observe lizards as part of a different study. After the storms hit, they realized they'd been presented with the opportunity to observe whether the reptiles had survived and why. Several weeks after Irma and Maria, the researchers returned to the islands to see if there was a difference in this post-storm lizard population. What they found was natural selection in action. Natural selection is a process through which members of a species that are best suited to their environment survive and reproduce at a higher rate than other members of the species. Natural selection appears to have driven rapid evolution of the lizards on the islands. How? For one thing, the remaining lizards were found to have 6 to 9% bigger toe pads on average than the sample population the researchers had measured before the hurricanes. That's because many of the lizards with smaller toe pads had been wiped out by the storms. Lizards' adhesive toe pads, which are the most about half the size of a pencil's eraser, allow them to stick to anything as long as their feet are dry. Their toes have microscopic, hair-like structures called setae. They split into tiny tips called stipuli, and they grip a surface. The larger size of the surviving lizards' toe pads wasn't the only change in the population that researchers noticed. On average, these lizards were also found to have longer front limbs and smaller back limbs compared to the overall population before the storms. It could be that lizards with longer front legs are better at clinging to surfaces. Outside experts praised the Harvard study, which was published in the journal Nature in July 2018. They marveled especially at the researchers' luck of being in the right place at the right time. This study provides exciting insight into the effects of extreme natural events, said Pennsylvania State University biologist Tracy Lane-Kildee, who wasn't part of the study. Evolutionary biologist Colin Donahue, the study's lead author, and his colleagues didn't merely measure the surviving lizards. Wanting to see the lizards' abilities for themselves, they took a leaf blower and cranked up the power on some of the reptiles in the laboratory. They recorded it all with a high-speed camera. Whether the lizards could hang onto a wooden pole depended on the speed of the air coming from the leaf blower. Under tropical storm-force winds, the lizards simply lounged. As the wind speed intensified, they still held on, although it did get harder for them to do so. Even at 102 miles, or 164 kilometers per hour, the lizard grasped the pole with two clingy front feet as their tails and back legs flapped in the wind like flags. All the lizard needs is an inside-out umbrella, and the image would be perfect, Donahue said. But there's only so much a little lizard can take. At 108 miles, or 174 kilometers per hour, it was flying lizard time. Don't worry, no lizards were harmed in the lab test. They do go flying in the air, but it is softly into a net, and everybody was returned back home unharmed, said Donahue. The reptiles tested in the study would likely do well in the next big storm. These lizards are very impressive for their clinging in the high winds, Donahue said. the Associated Press contributed to this story.